Over past years, we spent more than 1,000 hours researching, testing, and using 3D AI tools in production.
The AI landscape is extremely hectic and tools are changing every week or month. It's super easy to get overwhelmed.
So in this video, we're gonna show you what we learned that's gonna help you to save both time and money.
The best workflow and cost optimization tips, how we address issues and get results quickly.
This is not like usual video, it's more of a handbook.
You can watch it at once or navigate to specific problems. So make sure to like and save the video to always get back.
And we are getting started. And the first advice from my side will be do not buy any subscription, at least if you're just getting started. Even if you do not have good GPU to run local models and play with them, there are plenty of free cloud options such as Hunyon, and most of the paid you can also try for free. And I really recommend you to first try out the workflow and see if it works for you. Then you're gonna understand what you actually pay for. On our channels, we show how you can get great results only with free tools. That's possible. The trade-off really will be the time of processing. One of the best tools I will recommend as a paid option is Trepo, because it gives more stable high poly, low poly and stuff. But if you're just exploring, start for free, make sure you get use of it, then upgrade to next tier.
Many people struggle to run local workflows on their GPU. So when you would like to run 3D AI model generators locally, it all depends on your GPU. So you first need to figure out what kind of VRAM your GPU has. You can do that quickly with a simple Google search or look it up on the device manager to search how much VRAM your GPU has, and then you can decide for yourself which workflow to run. Because I would always recommend you to choose a GGUF version workflow when you have low VRAM, so around 6 to 8 gigabytes. You can then, for example, check out my Trellis to GGUF video where I show you how to run your 3D AI models locally with only 6 gigabytes of VRAM, and I also released a video about Pixel 3D where I'm also going to show you the same thing for Pixel 3D, and you can then also directly use the workflows in these videos to run your models locally with only those 6 gigabytes of VRAM. A great tip is here that in case you have higher VRAM, make sure to choose uncompressed models, so when you have a strong GPU you can use a range of like 60 to 32 gigabytes of VRAM. Then I would recommend to go with a full workflow for Trellis 2 with the kind of maximum settings you have. And by the way guys, always keep in mind for local generation, go with NVIDIA in case you have the possibility, because most local workflows so far are always based on the CUDA technology, and this will unfortunately only run with NVIDIA cards. For best cards for local 3D generation, I can recommend you the RTX 4090, for example, RTX 5080 and 5090. And there was a really exciting demo about the NVIDIA RTX Spark that is going to be released soon, which can be also a game changer in local 3D AI generations. So definitely watch out for that and choose the right workflow for you to not get frustrated with local 3D AI generation.
Next up, to max out your 3D generation with any 3D AI, you need to focus not on settings of that 3D AI, but on what you actually feed it. Good image prompts are crucial, and many people still don't really understand that. If you need delighted model or you want model for 3D printing, go back to your prompts. For example, if I were to create a model for 3D printing, I can actually generate image so it looks like it's 3D printed, and then I can expect that it will be less holes and stuff. If I'm going to create photorealistic, I'm gonna keep that details on image. Also, do not rely heavily on image optimization options in 3D AI generators. Before generating object, make sure all details are clean. The object is lighted equally from all sides. No additional objects on background and so forth. Good image prompt is 50% of successful 3D AI generation, and that can actually take longer time to prepare than doing 3D generation itself, and that's fine.
So guys, another really crucial thing is that in case you would like to achieve better facial details, for example, it's for your characters, or more details in general, always make sure that you generate the head and other parts separately already in your input image and then put them together later on in Blender, for example, to assemble them. Because this will have the effect that basically you will have a close-up of your head. For the 3D AI generator, it's way easier to read all the details since it's a close-up basically, and can then also read facial details and so on better. You can do this really easily by splitting your image by using Nano Banana, for example, where you then can prompt something like split the head or isolate the head and all the other parts as well. You can also use something like Asset Hub where everything will be automatically split for you, or you use a separation workflow, which I also showed in one of my videos, which you can of course also use to then split it locally in case you prefer that. This will then give you way more details than before, and you will achieve way better results when using 3D air meshes. And the best part is of course that you will then have everything split already, which is of course amazing because you will then have also better UVs, better topology and so on.
Another one is about faces, or how do you generate head faces that will be possible to rig? That's a good question. But first of all, to be able to rig it, we need distinguish eyes, mouth and stuff, and most of the high poly generation would actually fail. But we do have hope, and one of 3D AI generator actually can do that really nice. I'm talking about Trepo P1, which is one of the recent update they did. It also called Smart Mesh inside Trepo, and it can generate teeth, mouth and tongue as a separate objects. And right now that's probably the only option to generate it. Other than that, you can create any high poly model and do this process manually. There's also a trick that you can generate the high poly, then do the retopology and copy mouth, tongue and stuff from other model. There are plenty of hacks, but if you generate something truly unique, my workflow will be to generate face with Trepo P1, then prepare the object in Blender. And as you can see, there are all parts are distinguished, the lashes, the eyes and stuff, which is absolutely amazing. I even created a separate video with full tutorial, and also we're gonna use a Faceit plugin, which is probably the best one for doing rigs like that. And just after a while we have all the shape keys and we're ready to run this inside the game. Or for example, I was showing how to create a VTube character. And if you guys thinking to try out Trepo, this is actually the best time to do that. Me and Philip honestly recommend this tool because objectively this is top 1 generator right now, not because we think so, but because community thinks so. That is top 3D AI arena, and Trepo shows really good result. Me and my team, we use Trepo for almost all the projects that we do. They do plenty of great updates, such recently they released AK texture, updated generation in parts to version 2, which is way better right now, and their Smart Mesh aka Trepo P1 is one of a kind right now. That good low poly is hard to find. By link in the description, you get extra free 800 credits to try it out, and huge promo code if you consider to buy it.
Okay, next I wanted to share with you is to use a generated normal map as your input image, especially for higher mesh details with Trellis 2 or Pixel 3D. What do I mean exactly with that? So oftentimes we lack like details overall also with like basic generations with Trellis 2 and so on, and we can change that by using a normal map from our concept image instead of just the colored version. Because of course we always strive for highest precision in our 3D generation, and Trellis and Pixel work great when using a normal map because the AI is able to rate the shapes more cleanly and profits from that a lot. You can use here either Nano Banana with a single prompt like make a highly detailed normal map to get this one, or you can for a local solution also use Quen Image for example to make a highly detailed normal map, where you then get also results like this one for example, not as good as Nano Banana, but you can still use it, and then you can plug it into your Pixel 3D workflow. For example, this is the Pixel 3D default workflow right now, and you will see that we get those really nice tiny details here as well, even on lower resolution settings. As you can see here, I only chose 512 and basic step size, and we still get some really nice detailed results also around his face area and so on. So definitely worth to check out. And now back to Stefan.
Another not obvious but great hack how to save on credits, especially if you're using paid tools, is to generate multiple objects at once. Yes, that's actually absolutely legal and make perfect sense. For example, when we create any environment assets such as this, different size of bricks, rocks, etc., even some character stuff like 2 objects of same kind, you can generate them at once from one image, and the result will be quite nice. Here you go. You can easily export them, open in Blender, go to edit mode, and just separate them like this. For example, here I separated by loose parts, and here's the result. Look absolutely amazing. Now you have two separate objects you can work with. Start using that and you're gonna save quite a lot of credits.
Many of you have asked me as well, what is a good local AI image generator where I generate like my 3D model concepts before like taking it to 3D. And for this one, there are some options, some really good options that you can use that are fast, local and free basically. And to do that is that you can either use like Z Image Turbo that you have here, which I can really recommend because it's quite fast and easy to set up. You will find it in the ComfyUI template browser. You can click on it and then you will see that you can directly start a prompt here. It also has just some basic weights and then you can really easy and fast iterate on it with generating your image concepts and so on. Apart from that, you also have Flux Client, for example, that you can also run locally in ComfyUI, which is blazing fast as you can see here. And there are different models like the 4B but also a 9B version for a bit better results but a bit lower speed, but both are really highly recommended to use and you can see them here as well. So definitely make sure to check them out for faster iterations and that you can faster generate great concept images.
Small but important tip: if you are using paid 3D AI tools, always use free retries. Note, 3D AI is still generative AI, and don't forget that almost all of them offers free retry. It's like a Tripo, Hitem, Rodin. So use them and select the best result. Some 3D AI like Rodin allow to generate at once 5 and select the best. So definitely use that. That makes sense. That is basically how you address randomness. And that's absolutely fair.
Okay, one recurring issue I see a lot is, of course, questions about installation issues, especially for Retries 2, for example, sometimes Pixel 3D as well. And I just wanted to give you a quick idea, basically, how you can troubleshoot this with an AI, like, for example, Claude Code and Codex, which I think are the best options out there at the moment to debug this. Because I personally use Claude Code all the time for debugging basically any issues I have on my side, like missing Python packages and mismatching Python dependencies and so on. So definitely make sure to use this. You can give it a link to a GitHub repository, as you can see here from the Retries 2, for example. And then Claude Code will basically give you then a full step-by-step instruction to use. And you can even more simplify it or install Claude Code on your own PC and the desktop version. And then Claude Code will basically do it for you, which is also, of course, amazing. It's just important that you use the right prompts. So make sure, for example, that you are staying with the right PyTorch and Python version, that you give it like defined environment settings that the AI can then use. One thing I also do, which is really kind of a cheat code, is that I always give it like the whole ComfyUI terminal once it's launched. So basically, once you have it here and you discovered in some kind of issues over here or errors, you can then simply just copy the text that you have over here, copy the whole console. That's also fine. And even on the free version, it will help you already quite a lot, so you don't need necessarily to have the max version or the pro version from Claude Code or Codex. And you can then just paste it into the text field and then say like, what is my issue here, or what can be fixed? And then Claude Code will go over the code and the error messages and give you then after a few seconds like basically what the issue is, because Claude and Codex are able to read it quite fast, and they get way more information than when you would just use a simple prompt. So definitely make sure to always give it the ComfyUI terminal basically with like the debugging issues with the information they need.
When times come to animation, it falls apart. Animation loop broken, or it's not even possible to rig it through Mixamo or Acrylic. Well, there can be a beginner's mistake, such as whenever you go to rigging, you need to optimize your model, and you can use low poly or Retopology tools in Hunyon, Tripo, and so forth. That's the very first step to address this issue. But any generated topology, no matter how clean it can look, usually fails on any area such as knee or arms or anything else. And let me show you quickly some example. Let's take a look on this knee, and we can see that loops are distributed equally from both sides, and there are no additional loops on these areas that are gonna bend. And this is actually what caused these animation problems. I prepared some illustration I found that shows exactly what happens and why this is so important to have decent amounts of loops. Of course, any professional animator know that. But what you can do if you're just a beginner but you want better animations? Well, right now you have to learn a little bit of Blender and how to add loops. Actually, the good news, it's quite simple and you just need to know few tools in edit mode. On my channel, I have free lesson, or I also have a 3D AI course which covers exactly 10% you need to know about Blender and AI tools to address issues like this. If you do that, after this step, your animation will look way beter.
One thing I see all the time is that people in our community run out of memory or VRAM when using heavy or complex workflows. And to fix that is also quite easy, because you can, for example, split up your Configure workflow into different multiple parts. That you first generate your mesh and then save it, and then you upload your GAB file / 3D file again, and then you run it into the texturing or animation or rigging part and so on. And this is very easy to do and will basically save you a lot of VRAM, because you can always clear the VRAM again or reset Configure before then launching your next workflow, instead of running it all at once. So that is also definitely useful, and definitely make sure to split up. You can also use like those Configure memory saving nodes, but the most effective way is definitely like this, so definitely make sure to keep that in mind. Generating low poly meshes also remains quite difficult, especially with open source 3D generation. So I'm going to quickly show you now a way how you can do that easily with Trellis 2 / Pixar 3D as well, of course. The only thing you need to do is, once you have Configure Trellis 2 installed, and you can find a link down below how to do that step by step. Once you have it here, you go to the Configure template page again, and then you just search up here for the mesh with texturing low poly workflow. Then you can just click on it, upload your image then that you would like to have, and then you can run through it, because it will basically have then your face number set. So you will see that it has all the settings already done for you, so you don't need to change that much actually, and it will give you a decent result. And you will then see here as well that we have a low poly face number of like 5,000 in total, and using Trellis 2 here. And this will then basically, you know, first generate a high poly mesh like with 300k faces, and then it will shrink it down to 5k faces, which is of course amazing. And you will see that the result we get is actually quite decent, and it's quite fast, the workflow overall. I think in total it takes like 2 minutes on my RTX 5080, but you will then see that we have here like retextured low poly character, which is really cool with only 5k faces. Of course, it's not you know, as good as, you know, with Triple P1 for example on a paid generator, but still I think it's quite decent for a lot of models that you can use. Here you can also see the wireframe and so on, for example. And yeah, also the texture is working quite well, as you can see here. You can also smooth this then out in Blender, so you don't get step faces that you can see over here. And yeah, this is working then quite great.
And last tip from my side, if you are into 3D printing, you might face some issues whenever you try to drop AI generated model right into the slicer software. The right workflow I recommend is to always take it through Blender, through some simple steps to assure that your slicing software will gonna process it better. And again, you just need to know bare minimum. First, I recommend to take a look into the sculpting, that it helps to address any holes, smooth some surface, or even add details. Together with the remesh, it always helps to keep it as a one solid mesh. And there is a free add-on in Blender that you can activate in add-ons that's called 3D Print Toolbox that help you to verify your mesh, and you can actually go check it all and make it manifold and watertight, which is very important for slicer software. Most of them can actually address this issue and do the fix right away, but here in Blender you have more control. Also here in same plugin you can check the overhang face, which is basically the area that will be used for the support, and address, smoothen it, etc. So here you can edit the thing right away before the print printing and make sure everything goes smooth. This is how I address that, to not be frustrated when I bring it to Slicer software and some small issue will not let me to print it.
And then guys, as a last tip, I just wanted to quickly give you the tip to always bake your textures on your retopologized mesh instead of retexturing your mesh, because your high poly mesh has way more details when you apply the texture on it. And this is also quite easy to do. So I simply generated the character quickly here with Trepo AI in this example, which is our high poly mesh. Then I took it into Unreal 3D Studio to retopologize it and give it UVs. And then back in Blender, you can then use the high poly mesh and also import your retopologized mesh. And then you can simply, with cycles in Blender, you know, bake your color map onto your low poly mesh. You can do the same, by the way, also for the normal and displacement map. And you will see that you then have it on your low poly character, your texture baked on, which is of course really cool with a cleaner quad topology that we got from Unreal. So really useful stuff for sure. And in case you would like to learn more about it, you can then check out my 5 incredible ways to take your 3D AI models to the next level to then dive there into detail.
Well, that's the end of volume 1. I think we're gonna definitely make more videos like this. If something is unanswered, guys, let us know in the comments. We'll read all of them. Like and subscribe, and I see you in the next video.
So guys, we really hope you have enjoyed this video and the tips we gave you. All right, so see you on the next one.